Hi, welcome to Mood Food with Melissa. I'm Melissa and I am so excited to be sharing one of my favorite recipes with you. Today we're going to be making my crispy pan-fried chicken thighs. And this recipe is made with just a few simple ingredients and it is one of my favorite to make at home. I personally love fried chicken, but I don't love that heavy breading on the outside and all of that stuff that comes along with it. So today we're gonna be making a nice clean version of a fried chicken thigh with super crispy, salty, delicious skin. So the first step is getting our chicken thighs ready. And when you're picking out chicken thighs, it's very important that you look for air-chilled chicken thighs, or chicken in general. If you don't see air-chilled on the package, that usually means that it's been processed with a solution of chlorine and other random things. But aside from that, it is retained water. So that water is going to come off of the chicken when we're cooking. So in order to get a nice crispy skin, we need to get rid of as much moisture as possible. So starting with an air-chilled chicken is very important. And then from there, we're just gonna pat these chicken thighs dry with some paper towels to get all of the moisture off of the skin. And I'm just gonna pop on some gloves for this. So to get these dried off, we're gonna use some paper towels. You could use a rag or something like that, but because we're dealing with raw chicken, I think a paper towel is the best route to go. When I'm picking out my chicken thighs, I also like to look for lots of skin on the thigh. The skin is what's going to get super crispy, and in my opinion, it's the best part of the whole chicken thigh. So I always like to look for a thigh that's nice and juicy looking, but like lots of skin too. So you've got a nice good looking thigh here, and you can see we have a ton of extra skin on here. So I'm pressing the skin down into the paper towel and I'm really spreading it out so I can get into all of these little nooks and crannies of the skin. And I'm going to use a second paper towel to get the back side of the skin as well. And I'm not just patting the skin. The skin is the most important part, and that's really what we're focused on getting dry. But I'm also going ahead and patting dry the meat itself. And again, this is just getting less moisture in our pan, which is going to help us get an even crispier crust on that skin. And that's what fried chicken is all about, is that crispy, delicious saltiness. So that thigh is looking nice. And I don't know if you can see here, but you can tell the difference just by looking at it, how much drier it is. And so you really want that dried out chicken look, which it is not gonna stay dry. It's gonna be juicy and delicious when we're done cooking, but for this phase, we want it as dry as possible. And you'll notice some of your chicken thighs have the skin like this. Just break it apart. What will happen when it's cooking is if you don't separate that, it will contract and it will pull the skin in weird directions and not necessarily keep it down in the fat. It'll pull it in weird directions and not necessarily keep it down in the fat where we want it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep doing what I did to that first thigh to the rest of these. Okay, so now we have all of our chicken thighs nice and dried out. We've patted them dry with some paper towels, and now we're just gonna rub them with a little bit of salt before we get them ready to go in the pan. So here I have about a tablespoon of that beautiful saltery salt that I love. And it is a nice, beautiful, chunky, flaky salt, which is a great thing. But for this recipe, we wanna kind of break these granules down just a tiny bit. And that's because when we're frying, if the salt is too big, sometimes it can just separate right off of the chicken and it ends up just floating around in the pan rather than in our chicken where we want it. So we're gonna go ahead and sprinkle this on there. And you can see I'm just crushing it gently with my fingers as I sprinkle it. Some of the flakes are staying big and chunky, but that's okay. And the most important part is getting the skin nice and salty and crispy. But we're also gonna wanna do the other side. So we'll start with this. And I'm just trying to get each one of these skins evenly coated with the salt before I start rubbing it in and flip it over. All right, those are looking great. And so to rub it in, you're really just gonna kind of grab these and start massaging a little bit. And you're really just trying to press the salt into the skin as much as possible. And it's not really going to go into the skin, but it will just kind of bond to it a little bit. So we'll put that there. Same thing here, we're just using our hands to massage that salt into the skin, and definitely make sure that you don't forget about these little skin pieces that are just kind of hanging off the chicken. In my opinion, that is the best part. So you don't want to sleep on getting those nice and salty. And again, that salt, the saltery salt that I love to use, it has that beautiful mineral profile. So it's bringing out not just it's not just giving salt, but it's actually bringing out the flavors of the chicken and amplifying it. Because as you can notice, we're not adding any flavor to this dish. We're just using the chicken and the salt and our beef tallow to get all of our flavors. All right, so I think that side's looking good. We're just gonna give these a little flip. And you can notice here that these are already starting to kind of moisturize again, because as we add salt to the chicken, it's going to start pulling some moisture out. So you'll notice that even though you had them super nice and dry before, now that we've entered the salt into the equation, it's going to start pulling off a little more of that liquid. So I'm just giving them an extra little pat dry here. And then I'm going to use the remainder of my salt to do the other side. And this side, I would recommend not salting as heavily as your skin side. I think the skin kind of creates a barrier to the meat, and it's best, in my opinion, when it's really salty. Not too salty, but I like a really salty, crispy fried chicken skin. So I like to go a little heavier on the salt on the other side, and then just enough on this side to season the chicken. So in total, you're using about a tablespoon, but of course, that's gonna vary with the size of your recipe, if you're making more of these, or if you just want a little less or a little more salt in the final product. So those are looking great. We're gonna give these a flip so that they're skin side up while we wait, so that we don't get any more moisture collecting on that skin, which is going to start giving off moisture now that we've covered it in salt. So I'm going to get our pan ready and we'll get these fried up. All right, so our chicken is set up. We've got our pan ready. And right now our pan is set to a 6. We're gonna use a little bit over a medium heat, but that'll vary on every stove. So start with just above medium and then we can kind of take things from there. As I'm always saying, we're having a conversation with the food, so it's gonna give us feedback to help make it better. So here we have about a 1/4 cup of beef tallow, and we're just gonna get that added to the pan so it can start melting. And I know that might seem a little weird to use beef fat to fry chicken, but it's not going to make it taste like beef. It's just going to add a really nice savory note, and it's also going to give us a really crispy crust. I love to use beef tallow because it has a really high smoke point, so you can cook it at a really high temperature, which we're not doing too high here. And you could also use coconut oil for this. That's another option that I love to use when frying, but it doesn't have quite the same smoke point, so you're going to get a little smokier and a little more splatter. You can see we're already getting a little smoke off our pan here, which means it is probably ready for us to add the chicken. And I always like to just kind of use my hand, not in the oil or in the pan, but if you hold it about an inch above the pan and it feels almost too hot to touch, that's a good indicator that our pan is ready to fry. So we're going to take our chicken skin, and to safely add it to the pan, you want to add it in a way that is not going to splatter back on you. So you want to start with the skin down first and then slowly add the chicken to the pan. Already getting a beautiful sizzle in there. And we're going to do the same with these other chicken thighs. And so you are still going to get a little bit of spitting out of the pan because that is just the nature of frying. So just be aware and careful of that. But that is what's spitting right now is the liquid that was on the chicken. As I mentioned earlier, it's just going to have some liquid in it, even if you're going with an air chill that hasn't been treated with some kind of solution. So we're just getting a little bit of that splatter. Be careful of it. If it makes you nervous, you can get one of those splatter screens and just add it over your pan. It'll let the air out and the moisture out without letting that splatter out. But until it really kicks back at me, it doesn't bother me. So I'm just gonna continue as we were. And I'm going to rearrange these thighs a little bit too so that the skin is in the center of the pan. And when I say the skin, I mean that excess skin that I was talking about, which is my favorite part. And I want to make sure that it's in the center of the pan because that's going to give it the best chance of getting the liquid off of it and giving it a really nice crispy skin. Add this one. So we'll add our last chicken thigh in there. So our chicken thighs are in the pan and we're just gonna let those fry for a little bit. Rather than time this recipe, you're just going to want to kind of look for some indicators that will let you know that it's done. And so on the bottom, we're looking for a really nice golden crispy skin. And you'll be able to start seeing it form on the edges, and that'll be your indication that you should start to, not necessarily flip the chicken right then, but you're gonna wanna start picking it up and checking on it. Until you start to see that golden browning on there, you really wanna leave this chicken alone. And that's going to allow it to get a really nice crispy crust going. So the chicken's frying nicely, and I know that it's at the right temperature because we have a good amount of bubbling everywhere in the pan, but I'm not seeing any dark brown spots right away. The chicken we need to render off some of the fat from the chicken in order to get that crispy thigh. So we need to give it time to render the fat before it gets too brown. So you actually, before it turns brown, you'll start to see it turn kind of an opaque white color, and that's a good indication that we're headed in the right direction. And then after that, you're going to start to see that golden brown forming on the bottom. And once we get a nice, right now we're not quite there, but we're looking for a good amount of color, but we don't want it to be too dark. Once we start to see a good amount of color around the edges, that'll be our indication to start picking up the chicken and giving it a peek to see what it looks like on the other side and see if it's ready to flip, which I don't think any of these are just yet, but we do have some really nice golden brown pieces starting to form, which means we're definitely getting close. Another thing I like to do is as these continue to cook, they're going to shrink down a little bit too. So I don't want to take them out of the oil, but I will start to kind of rearrange them in the pan to get maximum skin in oil. And that is, again, because I love that crispy skin and I want it as crispified as possible. So I'm just going around here and I'm kind of pushing the skin down into the fat in the pan so it can get a chance to fry on both sides, not just the side that's down. And so these are getting ready to definitely take a peek at. I don't think that they're quite as crispy as we want them. And I know that because on the top side that I'm looking at, it's still looking white, which means we still have a good amount of fat on there. And the bottom is starting to look nice and golden, which means at least part of this is as crispy as we want it. So one of my pieces here looks like it's crisping up a little faster. I'm gonna give that a check. So that's what it looks like right now. We have that beautiful bubbling, which means we are getting crispified, but we don't have the goldenness that we're looking for yet. We do see it kind of here, but we want all of it to look that golden brown. So I'm gonna add that back to the pan, and I'm just going to give the rest of these guys a little peek. Again here, we have that golden brown here, but it's still a little pale on this side. So we're gonna add that back to the pan for a few minutes. Again, same thing here. And the reason this is cooking up a little bit faster is that it doesn't have the moisture behind it of the chicken and the fat and all of that. So your edges are going to get crispier than the rest of it, but it'll still be really delicious. I love a variation of texture, especially when it involves a super crispy piece of chicken skin. Right, and so this chicken thigh, they're all gonna vary in size. This one's a little bigger, so you can see it's taking a little longer to cook, which is perfectly fine. We're just gonna continue to have that conversation with our food and we'll get it where it needs to be. Because the skin is cooking up, or the pieces of skin that don't have the chicken behind it are cooking up a little faster, I'm gonna start rotating that part of the chicken out to the outside of the pan, leaving the fleshy part of the chicken on the inside of the pan. And more heat tends to accumulate in the middle of the pan, so we're just going to kind of use that to our advantage to even out the browning on the chicken. All right, so these are looking pretty ready to flip. What you're going to see is that beautiful golden brown, like I mentioned, but you'll also start to see the bottom of the chicken, the part that's touching the pan, or not the part that's touching the pan, but the side that's down, will start to cook through. So you're going to start to see the chicken change from that dark raw pink to that kind of light cooked chicken color. So these are definitely looking ready to flip over here. I think that one might need another second, so we'll start with the little ones first. Yes, that is beautiful. That's what we're looking for. You can see we have that beautiful golden going on throughout. We have the chicken on the edges here that itself is starting to get nice and crispy in addition to the skin. And that is looking like some beautiful fried chicken. So we're gonna go ahead and just flip those. And they don't always need to cook as long on the second side. We're going to use a meat thermometer to figure out when they're done. That's definitely the most reliable way to know. Yeah, so these chicken thighs look beautiful. And I am already so excited to eat this skin. This one has like a nice, beautiful bubble in it. Those are kind of my favorite little pieces. Give this guy a flip. Those are all looking gorgeous. And obviously the skin is what's getting super crispy, so the part that's on the bottom isn't going to get as crispy as the top, but because we're frying it in this beautiful tallow, it's going to get a gorgeous caramelization on the bottom that's going to bring some flavor and texture into it, even though it's a little different than what's on the other side. So these are starting to look really good, but I think they still need a few more minutes. You can tell that they have shrunken down quite a bit and they're starting to get that beautiful crispy caramelization on the bottom, but I can tell just by looking at this that it's not cooked through. These smaller ones will cook through faster, but we'll use our thermometer to make sure that they're fully cooked when it's time. So some of our smaller thighs are looking like they might be ready. So we're going to go ahead and use our meat thermometer to just go ahead and confirm their temp. We're looking for these to be at 165 degrees to be fully cooked. And right now they're hitting at about 155, so they're going to need just another minute or two in there, I think. All right, so we've given these a few more minutes in the pan, and I'm almost positive that they're up to temp now. So we'll just go ahead and recheck that without losing our beautiful skin. So that one's still showing up a tiny bit under. We'll give that another minute. And then this little guy, oops, that one is ready to go, so we'll pull it out of the pan. Give this one a check. Yep, that one's testing perfectly. And this one is where we need it to be. And this one was our bigger chicken thigh, so I'm guessing it's going to need another minute, so we'll just let it do its thing. And look at that beautiful crunch on the bottom here. I am so excited for this. So we'll give this one a little temp test now, and it is right where we want it to be. So we'll get this pan off to the side and we'll figure out what to do with our fried chicken to serve it. So our chicken's all fried up and now we just have this fat left to the pan. There's a few different ways that you can dispose of this. You can go ahead and just put it into a jar, kind of the old school way. I think that works great, but I also just like to let it cool to not a completely solidified. Sometimes I just let it solidify all the way, but get it cool enough that it's not going to create any melting. And then if you have a trash barrel that's already filled with a lot of paper towels and things that are nice and absorbent, you can go ahead and just pour this fat into that. Again, make sure it's not hot. You don't want it to melt through your bag, but it doesn't necessarily need to go in a jar and be disposed of elsewhere, but you definitely do not want to pour this down your sink. Definitely keep it out of your sink completely until it's ready to wash. So you're going to just dispose of the fat and then you can wash this, but make sure you do not put it down your drain. You will deeply regret that. All right, so we have our chicken all fried up and we temped it so we know that it's the temperature we want, which is 165 degrees internally. And you can see that I put it here onto this baking sheet lined with paper towels. And I did that because, as you can see, some of the oil and moisture from when we are cooking is still gonna be on that chicken when we take it out of the pan. Moisture is the enemy to crisp. So we would want to reduce as much moisture as possible. If you wanted to go a step further, you could actually just use a baking sheet, like a cookie cooling rack, and put it on top of this, and that will create some air in between the bottom, and that gives you the best chance at getting all of the crispiness. But that's another thing you have to wash. I'm all about avoiding dishes, so I think this works out wonderfully. And you can make this dish in advance. So say you wanted to have some people over for dinner and serve this, but you didn't necessarily want to fry chicken while you have guests in your home. You could go ahead and get it fully cooked just the way that we did, and then put it onto this pan. You would remove the paper towel after you've let it absorb some of the moisture, and then you can put this baking sheet right back in the oven. So this dish doesn't take very long to make, so it's definitely an easy kind of weeknight meal option. But if you wanted to serve this for guests, which I often do, I think people just love this dish, you can make it in advance so you don't have to fry while you have people in your home. That can be a little bit of production. So you can just go ahead and fry it just the way that we did this time. You fully cook it through, and then you just would put it onto this pan, let the moisture come off the way that I talked about. And then when you reheat it, it is best to use that rack on top of the baking sheet if you want to reheat them later in the oven. It'll help you to get maximum crispiness, but if you don't have one, you can certainly just do it on the sheet pan and it'll come out perfectly fine. So you would just reheat them. I like to do them under the broiler because then they get even crispier skin going on. So I do it on the bottom rack under the broiler. That allows for maximum heat and dryness on the skin, which is going to give you that super crispiness that we're looking for. And you can also just do it kind of at any temperature. I would do either broil it on the bottom so that you're getting that heat from the top down, or do like probably 400, 350, somewhere in that range, so that you're not cooking it for too long to get it heated up internally. And also, once we've heated it internally the first time, you don't need to get it fully back to 165 degrees. You just need to get it warm and servable. So after we've cooked it the first time, you're out of the danger zone. You just want to make sure that everything is nice, a nice consumable temperature when you reheat it the second time. My favorite way to serve this dish is with teriyaki sauce. You can do it with a whole bunch of different sauces. I also think like a lemon caper is beautiful on this. You could do just a traditional buffalo or hot sauce, but I have a fabulous, really easy, sweet and spicy teriyaki sauce that I love to serve with these. And I also like to pair it with my sweet potato puree, which I've shown you how to make in another episode. And I think that pairing of the creamy sweet potatoes, the crispy fried chicken, and that sweet, spicy, and savory teriyaki sauce is just phenomenal. But you can serve this kind of however you'd like. It's a really great base dish that can go in so many different directions. And I just want to take a second to show you guys how crispy this skin is. So you can see that when I scrape it with my fork, you're getting that beauty, you can hear how crispy it is. And I'm sure if we go ahead and just break off a little piece here, you can hear how crispy it is too. So that is what we're looking for, in my opinion. That's what makes a delicious fried chicken. You don't need to have it deep fried and breaded to get that beautiful crunchiness. So good. That's it. So there you have it. We've made some delicious paleo fried chicken. It has no breading, but it has all of the crispiness, minimal fat compared to other fried chicken, but it is just as delicious. You can find this recipe and more on my blog at moodfoodwithmelissa.com.